I used to be a Weird Warriors kid. Now I'm a Weird Warriors adult. Each week, I'm discussing a chapter of the iconic books by Aaron Hunter. My name is Charlie, and in today's episode, I will be talking about The Prophecies Begin, Book 1, Into the Wild, Chapter 6. Join me on this adventure into the world of warrior cats. Welcome back to another episode. Once again, I have to apologize because this episode is late. I've been pretty frustrated with myself with not getting out these episodes in the timely manner that I would prefer. But I'm still proud of myself for continuing this podcast despite working 35 to 40 hours a week in retail. I'm just going to get into it. So the chapter art is the same as the prologue, so it seems we've started the cycle over of the chapter art, and it is two cats in front of the moon. And speaking of moons, right off the bat, we find out that 2 moons have passed in this chapter since the previous one, so it's already been quite a time jump. It says, Firepaw paused to sniff the earth and the cold, blind things that moved within it. I was confused by what that meant, and then I realized maybe it's referring to worms in the earth? The cold, blind things that moved within it? I don't know. And then another sentence that confused me was, Firepaw made a lean, strong shape as he moved silently through the trees. Does that mean like his silhouette is a lean, strong shape? I don't know. Hi, Lucky. Here's my kitty. He's very cute, joining the podcast. So Firepaw, it's describing him going through the forest, seeming to have more skills since he's been getting trained for 2 months on becoming a warrior. And it says, the stench of fox lay heavy in the air here. The smell was stale. Firepaw recognized the odor. He had smelt it on his first visit to the forest. Since then, Lionheart had taught him it was fox scent. But apart from the glimpse of the fox's brush he had caught on that first outing, Firepaw had still never seen one properly. So I guess fox's brush, I guess that refers to the fur or the tail. Let me see. I'm going to Google, is brush another word for tail? According to the AI overview, it says, yes, brush can be another word for tail, specifically referring to the bushy or tufted tail of certain animals, such as a fox or squirrel. Okay. It says that's as found in the definitions from Merriam-Webster and WordHippo. I'm glad at least we're getting some sources cited in that AI overview. But anyway, I do remember Firepaw seeing a red tail earlier, and I thought maybe it was Redtail himself or perhaps a fox. And if we actually go back to the middle of page 12, which is part of chapter 1, it says, he could see the white tip of a red bushy tail trailing through a clump of tall ferns up ahead. He smelled a strong, strange scent, definitely a meat eater, but neither cat nor dog. Distracted, Rusty forgot about the mouse and watched the red tail curiously. And then he hears a noise behind him, but kept his eyes fixed on the strange red fur up ahead. And then the sound from behind him continues, and that's when Greypaw had attacked him and they met. So now we're finally getting confirmation that that was, in fact, a fox. We also find out that this is Firepaw's first official solo mission as an apprentice, and it's to get some fresh kill for the clan, and he's supposed to feed the clan first before hunting for himself. So he starts stalking a vole, which now that I think of it, I'm not even quite sure what a vole looks like. I'm thinking of a mole or a mouse-like thing, or are they, no, I think a mole is the one that has like the face that's like red. Hold on, let me look up what a vole is. Oh, okay, it kind of looks like a chinchilla, but yeah, it is kind of mouse-like. Let me look up a mole. Yeah, I was thinking of the star-nosed mole, but that's not a vole. Are there voles in America? Are there voles in America? Yes. Okay, interesting. There's an ellipses with 4 dots here. Oh, no, Lucky's moving my camera. Oh. Hi, Lucky. So, there's a 4-dot ellipses after the sentence, another moment, and he would be near enough to the spring. So he's hunting this vole, but then suddenly there was a loud rustle in the ferns behind him. The water vole's ears twitched. Oh, I guess it's a water vole. What's a water vole? I just googled water voles, and the images are so cute. But the water vole's ears twitched, and it disappeared down a hole in the bank. It says Firepaw felt the hackles rising along his spine. And this made me realize, like, I googled it, and hackles are the actual hairs that stick up when a cat is angry. And I've talked about this in a previous episode, that in the past when I was younger and reading these books, I thought whenever it describes a cat raising their hackles that it meant they were like raising up their hips or like getting tense and ready to pounce or trying to be intimidating. But it seems like this is an involuntary symptom of anger that occurs where their fur sticks up. Like, I thought hackles were like bones or muscles or something, but it's the hairs. And here, Firepaw is pretty angry. It says, whatever had ruined his first good chance of catching prey would have to pay. And Firepaw can tell that a cat is following him, but he can't tell who it is because of the smell of the fox. And it says it was confusing his smell sense, but he could smell the vole, so I don't quite believe that that could be the reason. It says, from the noise it's making, it must be big, Firepaw thought, preparing himself for a fierce battle. And then he attacks the perceived attacker. And once again, it turns out to be Graypaw in this situation. They have a little tussle before they both realize who each other are. And then it turns into a play fight. And Graypaw asks how Firepaw's task is going. And Firepaw says, it was going fine till you scared away the vole. Graypaw apologizes, and it says Firepaw looked at his crestfallen friend. And the word crestfallen, I remember seeing in this series a lot, and I think it means like sad or feeling guilty. And when I think about it now, I'm like, oh, crestfallen, that must mean like the crest of a wave falling, so maybe feeling down. But I feel like I also associate that word with the crescent, just because it sounds crescent. I don't know, but let me Google that real quick just to double check. Crestfallen definition. The dictionary thing that pops up when you Google stuff is saying sad and disappointed. So, makes sense. And Firepaw says, that's okay, you didn't know. Anyway, shouldn't you be heading to meet the patrol on the WindClan border? I thought you had to give them a message from Blue Star. And when I first read that sentence, I thought it meant that Graypaw was supposed to tell WindClan a message from Blue Star, but it was to tell the patrol that's at the border a message from Blue Star. And Graypaw was like, yeah, but there's plenty of time. I was going to do a little hunting first. I'm starving. And Firepaw said, me too, but I've got to hunt for the clan before I can hunt for myself. Graypaw says, I bet Dustpaw and Sandpaw used to swallow a shrew or two when they were on hunting duty. And Firepaw says, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but this is my first solo assignment. And again, there's 4 dots in that ellipses. So, wait, let's see. I was going to look up something. What was it? Oh, shrew. What's a shrew? I feel like they show up a lot in this series as well. Okay, it kind of also looks like a mouse, but with a longer nose. Oh, it's very cute as well. And then I also want to look up how many dots does an ellipsis have? According to the AI overview, an ellipsis consists of 3 dots to indicate omitted words or trailing thought. Well, typically, 3 dots, a 4th dot, a full stop, is sometimes added when the ellipsis concludes a sentence that would otherwise end with a period. Oh, interesting. So it's almost like it's the period and then the ellipsis. And you want to do what's right, I know, Greypaw sighed. What's the message from Blue Star anyway? Firepaw asked. Greypaw says she wants the patrol to wait at the Great Sycamore, which we do see on the map, until she joins them at Sunhigh. Seems that some Shadow Clan cats have been prowling around. Blue Star wants to check things out. This kind of seems like a big deal, like the leader herself wants to go join a patrol. And Greypaw says the Wind Clan hunting grounds aren't too far from here, there's plenty of time, and I suppose I should help out after losing you that vole. And Firepaw says, it doesn't matter, I'll find another. But it seemed like it did matter to you, Firepaw, a couple pages ago, when you were saying whoever scared away that vole would have to pay. You seemed pretty angry until you found out it was your friend. But whatever. Oh my gosh, I didn't notice this sentence the first time I read it. Well, I guess the second time I read it, since this whole podcast is a reread for me, but earlier today when I read this sentence, I didn't realize it kind of sounds gross. It says, Greypaw nibbled at a front claw, stripping off a piece of the outer sheath thoughtfully. Okay. They talk about how long it will take to get enough food for the clan, which I'm kind of surprised that it's all being put on Firepaw. Like, you'd think other warriors and apprentices would be working on hunting, and I thought this was just, what's special about this trip is that it's the first time Firepaw's doing this by himself. I guess now it's not anymore, that now that he's being joined by Greypaw, which is nice of Greypaw to help out, but I'm surprised the responsibility was put on one cat. Like, I know there's not a lot of warriors, and that's like the whole point of them bringing in Firepaw, so that they can have another cat to help hunt, but like, it says that Firepaw would probably have to make 3 or 4 trips of prey to be able to feed the clan. That sounds exhausting. So they set off to hunt together, but then they suddenly smell the fox stench stronger. Oh no, Lucky is playing with my charging cord of my phone again. Okay, I'm gonna unplug that. My phone's been charging long enough, and I do not want my camera to knock over again. Firepaw sees something red and thick-haired moving among the bushes. It stepped into a clearing in the undergrowth, and Firepaw saw a low body glinting red in the dappled sunlight. Its tail was heavily furred, and it had a long, narrow snout. So that's a fox? Firepaw whispered. What an ugly muzzle. Oh my god. Firepaw, so rude. You can say that again, agreed Greypaw. They're just seeing something different and immediately calling it ugly. That's quite rude. Firepaw says, I was following one of those when we first met. And Greypaw says, more likely it was following you, you idiot. Like, now he's being rude to, like, now they're being rude to each other. Like, come on. Greypaw says, never trust a fox. Looks like a dog, behaves like a cat. We must warn the queens that one has strayed into our territory. Foxes are as bad as badgers when it comes to killing young kits. I'm just glad you didn't catch up with the one you saw last time. He'd have made mouse meat out of a tiny scrap like you. Oh my gosh, Greypaw. And then Greypaw sees how Firepaw understandably looked a little put out and says, you'd stand a better chance these days, though. Anyway, Blue Star will probably send a warrior patrol to scare it off. Put the queen's minds at rest. Luckily, it says the fox had not noticed them, so they continued on. Firepaw asks about badgers, and Greypaw says that Halftail earned his name from getting his tail bitten off by a badger, and now he can't climb trees because he's scared of falling. A cat needs his tail if he wants to land on his feet. It helps him spin in midair. I'm going to Google that just to double check as well. Can cats without a tail land on their feet? AI Overview says yes, because their riding reflex primarily relies on their flexible spine and inner ear, allowing them to twist their bodies in midair and orient themselves before impact. While a tail acts as a counterbalance and aids in balance and agility, a cat's innate ability to right itself during a fall is not dependent on its tail. So I know AI can be wrong sometimes, but according to that, which I do not like that I bring up AI so much in this podcast because I'm very cautious / almost like quite anti-AI, especially generative AI. Like, I understand how AI can be a helpful tool, but I'm also very scared of AI that goes unregulated and can just steal from artists and other creatives. And I feel like it's gonna cause a lot of damage and already has. It's bad for the environment, all that. So when I just Google stuff and the first thing that comes up all the time is now AI, it's frustrating. Like, I guess I could scroll past that and go to Wikipedia or some other website, but it is very convenient to just have the answer right at the top there. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on that too long, but a lot of the details in the Warriors book where they mention like certain things about nature have seemed to be accurate, but this time AI is countering this claim, but oh well. So they hunt together and they catch a good amount of prey. It mentions a thrush. Is that a kind of bird? I'm going to look that up. Thrush animal. Yes, it is a bird. It's also cute and pretty. Then Firepaw and Graypaw chase after a squirrel, but it jumps into a tree, and so they lose it. But then I was thinking, okay, they were just talking about Halftail climbing trees and then not being able to because of losing his tail. So why didn't they climb the tree after the squirrel? I know it would be like really hard to catch a squirrel in a tree, but of all the clans, you'd think that ThunderClan would know how to do that because they have a lot of trees. So it'd be really cool to see if they had like tree hunting techniques. But anyway, then they get near the Thunder Path. It says this was the first time they had been there alone. And Firepaw gets curious about it and starts to go towards the street and to feel what the Thunder Path feels like. And Graypaw gets scared and tries to call him back. And then Firepaw sees a pair of eyes across the Thunder Path staring back at him. And Firepaw says he thinks it was a Shadow Clan warrior. And Graypaw says, well, it's a good thing that monster came past when it did. Where there's one Shadow Clan warrior, there's more, and we're no match for them yet. We'd better get out of here. Oh yeah, so a monster or a car had driven past, and Firepaw retreated away from the Thunder Path. But that also confused me because it said a huge monster taller than a tree roared past his nose. So I'm trying to picture, how tall of a tree are we talking about? Because they're in a forest, which makes me think they live near pretty tall trees, and I don't know if I've ever seen a car taller than a large tree before, so maybe it was taller than a small tree. I feel like saying taller than a tree is like not the best measurement for how big something can be, but that's that. And they see that the sun is almost directly overhead. Graypaw says, I'd better get a move on if I want to meet the patrol on time. See you later. And Firepaw watches him go. He envies Graypaw for the chance to be joining a warrior patrol. But at least he'd have something to tell Dustpaw and Sandpaw when he returned to camp. Today, he had seen his first Shadow Clan warrior. Dun, dun, dun. And that is the end of chapter 6. Wow, so that is quite exciting. It was a very short chapter. I guess it was a little bit eventful. They saw a fox and they saw a Shadow Clan warrior. But anyway, that is that chapter. So thank you so much for listening. I have been enjoying doing this podcast very much. I just hope I can keep doing it and staying consistent. And I appreciate anyone who is listening. It means a lot to me. And I hope you have a great week. I will see you next time. Gotta get my mascot. This has been Into the World of Warrior.